Dear ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, since the year 2006, the Archaeological Ecological Center Albersdorf works as an officially recognized partner for sustainable development on an institutional base for the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations Organization on a regional level. In this presentation, the thematic background of the educational work in archaeology and ethnography will be connected with the practice of communication with our visitors in our open-air museum. Of great importance are here the partnerships with the environmental and educational ministries of the federal state of Schleswig-Holstein, as well as the memberships of our museum as partner of the National Wadden and as partner of the association Alliance One World. In the frame of these cooperations, we could realize seminars and trainings on the topic, as well as external experts for stakeholders and other interest groups, and also internally for our staff members and our volunteers. I will report about the reasons, steps and the criteria how to become a partner in these official certifications. Some examples will be presented about our practical experiences of working, for example, with the topics water resources and prehistoric times, food and use of natural materials in Stone Age, and living and surviving in winter season and prehistoric times, which gives the participating students different key competencies which they can transfer to their daily life of today. The Steinzeitpark Dithmarschen in Albersdorf, Stone Age Park Dithmarschen, in the county of Dithmarschen in Germany, is an archaeological open-air museum that integrates the surrounding landscape. Since 1997, the park has been developed on a plot of land over 40 hectares large, with 9 original archaeological monuments under the mission statement Cultural Landscape. The Stone Age Park is part of the Archaeological Ecological Center Albersdorf, a beneficiary limited organization which consists of the Museum of Archaeology and Ecology in Dithmarschen, which has original on-site artifacts as well as reconstructed model-like Stone Age settlement of the early through late Neolithic periods, named Stone Age Village. They are there to convey archaeological research results. Right from the beginning of our work, the Stone Age Park aims to teach the public about the relationship between the natural environment and the development of the land. It also wishes to gain public support for the protection of our natural and cultural inheritance, which is less abundant today. The Steinzeitpark Dithmarschen attempts to teach people in a way that integrates theory, practice, intellect and feelings. We believe that a knowledge of the past that has been reflected upon can help us to understand the present, and that as a result the visitors will develop a desire to go deeper into the presented topics. The Steinzeitpark Dithmarschen helps to work toward lasting ecological, cultural and business development as a certified educational center in the region of Albersdorf. Already, this means from a conceptual base to take points of sustainability into account and to work practically on it. Alongside regular improvement of the infrastructure of our archaeological open-air museum, the park supports and conducts archaeological and historical research on the countryside. The data provided is used for the further landscape development of the Steinzeitpark, as you can see in the map. You see here the map with the landscape development of our Stone Age Park. Here you can see some of the natural developments of the plants in our park. Next slide shows you as an example an arable field where we plant old traditional crops which were already used in Neolithic times. The next slide shows you a Mesolithic garden with typical trees and bushes like a hazelnut, for example, which were existing already in Mesolithic time and can be used for different purposes in our educational work. Next slide shows you as an example also old cattle breeds which we have in our park and are not only used as exhibition part but also used as practical grazing animals who are also structuring the park. Next slide. Since spring 2021, we are building a new exhibition and educational center with the name Stone Age House at the entrance area of the park. This will replace, from the forthcoming season 2023 on, the current museum rooms housing the permanent exhibition, which are circa 2 kilometers away from the park at the moment. Archaeology as a discipline with its methods and expressive possibilities, and the scientist, who is only sometimes aware of the fact that he is time-traveling, so to say, are both on a trip to the past that is merely incomplete. Thus, the picture we have of the past is blurred. Archaeology is therefore reliant on analogies and analogical conclusions for almost every interpretation, as finds neither speak by themselves nor for themselves or their past. The scientific perception of prehistoric tools and their function often occurs in an unspoken manner on an evolutionary influenced basis. Even if this procedure can be understood as a protest against every revival of mythology, there is still an ethical problem. The evolutionary perception of the tools is all too often uncritically transferred to the perception of the groups and people who used or are still using the tools in different time periods. If you understand archaeological culture groups as a material expression of a functional adaptation to the environment, then there is a large probability that similar living environments in the past and in the present were and are similarly manipulated. But in order to state such a hypothesis, to compare different culture groups, a large enough amount of provable data should be presented through the formal analysis of finds and results. The Steinzeitpark Dithmarschen strives to make it possible for groups of people, whether it be adult, children or school groups, to have direct contact with ancient monuments and their proper Stone Age cultural landscapes. These include old forms of living and settlement, old breeds of domesticated animals, and much more, which can offer perspectives into past ways of life. Ethnological precedents are also very often used in practical pedagogical work. In all of these areas, whether it be the reconstruction of tools, models or houses, or particular forms of exhibiting in the museum, the problem of reconstruction and rendering of prehistoric societies is always quietly looming in the background. It is possible to form stereotypical interpretations of the past in our mind's eye, which can take root and that are more or less congruent with the present as we know it. As disciplines, both archaeology and ethnology deal with people's natural necessities of life, with the consumption of resources and with the possibilities to adapt to or manipulate these resources. At many environmental education centers and at the Steinzeitpark in Albersdorf, the practical and methodical program called Education for Sustainable Development, based on the 17 Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations Organization, has recently been implemented. In combination with ethnology, this imparting of archaeological themes allows new access to the meaningful, basic questions of existence, which are also significant to modern mankind. It can result in an elevated respect for physical work and takes timely dimensions into consideration, which are often neglected by the Education for Sustainable Development program. Particularly archaeology's view of the foreign, which happens in time and not necessarily in space, can lead to understanding, to awareness, and in the best case to tolerance of other past cultures. Here it is also important to emphasize that the transition from Mesolithic times to Neolithic societies, the long-term change from hunter and gatherer societies to archaeological cultures economically based on farming, is a so-called first-grade global social transition in the terms of the United Nations Organization. The second is the Industrial Revolution of the 19th century, and the third is the recent development of globalization and digitization. This is an important theme and topic where we have to focus more on in the next years. How can such an expectation be concretely realized in an archaeological institution? At the Steinzeitpark Dithmarschen, each educational event consists of a hands-on and experience-oriented part. These offers take place at the mostly authentic, problem-oriented learning environment of the Stone Age village and include an instructive introduction by the Stone Age curator and a practical, constructive experience for the participant. Through these programs at the Steinzeitpark, which deal with specifically conceived themes, the participants are meant to improve their personal competencies and professional skills, method competences, social competences, and as well as self-competence, for example, self-responsible behavior. All these competencies are key competences of the Education for Sustainable Development theme. They can improve the quality of life, be applied to various essential aspects of life, and are relevant to every individual. These competencies should enable one to successfully overcome complex challenges by mobilizing psychosocial components like cognitive skills, knowledge, value orientations, emotions, and motivations. The learning is meant to be as cooperative, participatory, and self-organized as possible. This kind of self-driven learning motivation is the best guarantee for lasting learning success through method competence. Our presented educational work based on these key competencies combined with the actualized relevant topics of the prehistoric life of human beings in relation to ecological circumstances lays the ground for our official certification as an institution for the education of sustainable development. Here we focus also in special programs on special topics relevant for sustainability and quite easy to demonstrate in archaeological open-air museums. These are, for example, water resources in prehistory and today, or food, origin and use. With the new topic hunger, eventually, we don't know yet how to realize it for schools, for example. The topic clothing, how to behave sustainable. The topic living in wintertime, today and in prehistory. In presenting such programs, we compare prehistoric life with the life of our visitors today, ask questions, open discussions, and motivate to think about it. Certificates or seals of quality are also highly significant for museum institutions as they guarantee standards and validity of performance for the visitor. The standards for receiving particular certificates can serve as corrective feedback and as a source of ideas for the staff. Additionally, they also serve as advertising platforms where all partners of a network gives information about the other partners. The Steinzeitpark has at first been recognized as an educational center for sustainability by the Department of the Environment of Schleswig-Holstein since 2006. Here we focus, as reported above, on the topics comparison between today and prehistoric time, which gives relevance for our guests, and on the understanding of different cultures. Since 2014, we are officially a National Park Wardency partner, where we have to follow the strict regulations in using biologically and ecologically sustainable resources in our institution, for example, green energy, office equipment, etc. Since 2015, we are a member in the Alliance One World Schleswig-Holstein, where we not only are active on the mediation of knowledge about different cultures worldwide, but also work in this framework on the base of social values, for example, in the working conditions for our staff. The very considerable effort to obtain the particular certifications began, in our experience, to pay off in the middle term in the improvement of our offers and in the rise of visitor numbers. Not at least also in the establishment of new cooperation networks, gaining new experiences and ideas and leading practically to new seminars, presentations and publications about our tasks and work. To conclude, here we can see that the following points lay the ground for our work on sustainability means: first, the conceptual work. Make the topics or the narrative of your archaeological open-air museum relevant. Use actual or actualized stories which have relevance to your audience. And then make the topics emotional so that they are interesting for your visitors and gives an experience where you like to think upon after your visit. Lay the base of your educational work on some of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals of the officially one of the United Nations, where of course also problematical points like hunger, war, violence should be presented and discussed with your visitors in an open atmosphere. Next point, practical steps. Create practical programs out of these topics and themes and search for appropriate networks which could be gained by certifications. And, in a third step, have good luck with it and have a long breath to realize it. It's not always easy. In the end, it should be mentioned also here that the archaeology and the local and regional environmental history are placed together in an exciting and informative context at the Steinzeitpark Dithmarschen, which is why the institution receives so much support from regional volunteers, in addition to the over 600 active members of the Financial Support Society. This makes favorable conditions for the Steinzeitpark to receive especially also visitors from the local and regional population, which lay the foundation of the success of our institution, not only by economical means, but also very special in a content-wise frame. Thank you so much for your audience, and if you have questions, please let me know about it. Now in a discussion, or also write later to me via email. Thank you so much and have a good continued conference. Goodbye.